What first drew me to the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre was the overall history of Holy Family Cathedral. So I was interested from the church's founding in 1899 all the way up to the present. But what I found in 1920, 21, 22, there were some missing records. And so I didn't know why. And it wasn't until later that I connected that to what I was hearing at music festivals, like Tulsa's Juneteenth Music Festival. I learned what Juneteenth was all about when the Emancipation Proclamation was finally put into effect, even in Texas and Oklahoma. And I learned that Tulsa was part of a horrible race riot or race massacre. From what I understand from our records, which are very small from that time, there was a young man named Dick Rowland who worked in downtown Tulsa. Some of the histories say that maybe he was a shoe shiner who worked either out on the street or inside a building on the ground floor around downtown Tulsa. Being a young black man, he was not allowed to use restrooms that others would use. And so he made friends with someone who worked up on the third floor of the building that would let him use their office restroom. So he rode the elevator from the ground floor up to the top floor of this building, and there was an elevator operator. At the time, you'd have someone who'd go into the elevator and push the buttons for you. And when the doors opened up on the top floor of the building, the elevator operator was saying that he had assaulted her. And they took young Mr. Rowland into custody, and a large pair of crowds formed outside the Tulsa County Courthouse. There were a group of basically white men who were ready to punish Dick Rowland for a crime that he was not yet convicted of. And then there was a group of black men who were ready to defend him. They were all armed because many of them had served in the First World War, and they got to bring home their rifles with them. So they all had working firearms. A lot of the black men were disarmed and sent back to the north side of Tulsa. They were going to release Dick Rowland because the woman in the elevator had recanted of her accusation. But at this point, it was his safety. Mr. Rowland would get killed if they had released him out onto the city streets. So they kept him in custody. Tensions got worse, and eventually fighting broke out. There was gunfire that took place. It happened not very far from the current site of Holy Family Cathedral. It was just up the street at about 6th and Boulder. The fighting moved north up Boulder, and then I'm told at some point it turned around the corner and went down 2nd or 3rd Street, more towards Main Street. And then it moved up towards the Blackwall Street area. This was very critical to Holy Family parishioners because many of them lived at the Holy Family school site, which was at 3rd and Elgin, not that far from the Greenwood district. And so a lot of parishioners would have seen the fighting from their front windows. Through the night, there was horrible fighting. And one of the histories I read that says that of about the 11,000 black people who lived in Tulsa, 10,000 were left homeless after some 36 blocks of residences were burned to the ground. Holy Family responded very profoundly to this tragic chapter in Tulsa's history because it happened in their backyard. We had a school and a small church in the northeastern part of downtown Tulsa. We had the present big Holy Family Cathedral in the southern part of downtown Tulsa. But the night that the riot broke out took place when we were having graduation or a school play at what was then called the Tulsa Convention Center. It was later renamed to the Brady Theater and is currently called the Tulsa Theater. But we were having a series of presentations there in the theater, and at that point the riot broke out. The pastor who was present attended. He stood up, he went up on the stage and said, "A horrible race riot has broken out. You all need to go home right now. Parents, don't let go of your children's hands as you take them home. Get home, close the windows, shut off the lights, and be quiet. Dads, grab a couple cans of food and come meet me at the church. We have work to do." They turned the basement of Holy Family into a shelter. And so a lot of the men of Tulsa who were refugees traveled to Muskogee. They just wanted to get out of town, someplace safe, about 40 miles away. It was quieter. And so it was largely women and children that Holy Family, we probably fed about 250 women and children the first night. Then some of the histories say about 150 the next night, maybe 75 or 100 the third night. But it was definitely something that Holy Family found itself, I really hope, here on the right side of history. We wanted to help at great risk to the church, which they would have burned down, and also to the lives of the people who were providing safety and shelter. This is a 1918 map of Tulsa. I love this style of map. Many of them are available through the Library of Congress. And some company went around coloring downtowns across the United States. And here is Tulsa's. I like it because we've got the current Holy Family Cathedral right here. There is the historic original Holy Family Church right here, and you can see its proximity to Greenwood right here. It was through these doors that refugees from Tulsa's race massacre entered Holy Family Cathedral. They found their way down into this room, the Hiring Auditorium, named after Father John Hiring. Father Hiring further continued his work in trying to promote equality and racial justice in Tulsa at the cost of his own safety. In the mid-20s, there was a Ku Klux Klan rally in Tulsa and a parade where white-robed men marched all throughout downtown. Father Hiring stood on the front steps of Holy Family, and there were no locks on the doors, and so he defended it against any possible incursion from any Klan member during that parade. It's interesting to think about what we can all take away from this event. There's cultural impacts, there's spiritual impacts. Cultural, of course, today in 2025, we can see the pain that was caused by the race massacre. I don't know that we've learned all the lessons from it yet, but we know what happened, and we don't want to repeat it. Spiritually, we know that God loves everyone. Looking back at Pope St. John Paul II, he said that every single human being is unique and unrepeatable. We are that special in God's eyes. And for half of Tulsa to try to burn the other half down is certainly a violation of that human dignity. He also had 2 associate pastors. Those are priests who help the lead pastor, if you will, in a Catholic church. They eventually formed a group that went on to found St. Monica's Catholic Church in near North Tulsa. They wanted to be part of the healing process. So as Black Wall Street, which was the most prosperous Black community in all of the United States before the riot happened, they were able to build the Black community back slowly over the next few years. And it was St. Monica's Catholic Church that was our visible sign of trying to promote healing in Tulsa after the riots.